Hey, Clemson family, time to take a look at the change that we saw in offensive coordinator Brandon Streeter's playbook during the Tigers' season opening win.
I'm Daniel Shirley. We'll also talk some soccer with another big win for the Tigers, the top-ranked Tigers, that is, and we'll look at a win over the South Carolina Gamecocks with the volleyball team.
I'm Bill Zimmerman. Welcome to episode 22 of the Reign Supreme Alway podcast. We want to be your source for analysis of Clemson sports in 2022. We appreciate everyone who's been subscribing and commenting at youtube.com/Clemson Kickoff. Following us on the major podcast apps is great. Appreciate seeing you vote in our polls at twitter.com/Clemson Kickoff. And we're glad to see some of y'all listening via our homepage at clemsonkickoff.com. We got some other great resources there too. Well, first, let's get into a little bit about Dabo Sweeney and his contract extension that was announced Thursday morning. It's going to keep him on the sidelines in Death Valley through 2031, and it's going to allow him to cling to one of the phrases that he often uses, and he's going to be able to bloom where he's planted, isn't he?
He is, and this is not a surprise. This was coming. You've seen other coaches get extensions and get more money and all those kinds of things. So you figured Dabo Sweeney was probably up next to have this done, and it makes a lot of sense that they did it now.
Nick Saban's deal runs through 2029. Kirby Smart's runs through 2031. Value for Sweeney now is $115 million, but as one reporter pointed out, talking to Graham Neff earlier today, it's really not a whole lot per year in most years.
No, it feels like it's more about the years, right? The number of years as opposed to money. Now, it's a lot of money. I mean, don't get me wrong. That we're talking about a lot of money, but
Sign me up.
Yeah, but if you look at the money that football program is bringing in to the university, I always say that Dabo's printing money, and it feels like he is. So it makes a lot of sense that they would continue to keep him in the fold like this. And then have that, that stability, the length, the years, all those things, they make a lot of sense.
The market drives the numbers, and athletic director Graham Neff, who's in his first year, said that Sweeney's accomplishments just made that easy. The talks had started early in the spring. They worked through the financial process in the meantime. Typically, one benefit from these deals comes in recruiting. They sure haven't needed it this year with this fabulous 2023 class that's been in progress.
Right. It's a good class coming in, and I can't wait to see who they add through the next couple of months as we get to December and get ready for the first signing day. So recruiting's going well. The team continues to play well. Another 10-win season last year. The program is in great shape, and it starts with Dabo Sweeney. I mean, look, let's be honest about that. I mean, he's built something with this program that really wasn't there when he took over as the head coach, and he's being rewarded for that once again.
He has also built into this program a lot of things that benefit players, and a lot of the national talking heads are once again getting these things wrong today. They're using this as an opportunity to pounce, but I think we'll wait until some future episodes down the road to really get into that, dive in deep on that topic, make sure we do our homework and make sure we get it right, unlike a lot of those voices.
Well, yeah, we're not hot take you here, are we? I mean, we're not going to jump on those things just because of their emotional responses and those kinds of things. And Bill, you also got to remember the money he has put back into the program and the university. I mean, remember what he did with the soccer programs and helping donate money to the soccer programs, his foundations and all those things that are doing good things for the university and the community. Those can't be overlooked as well. I get why some people are going to go after some of his previous comments. Maybe they misconstrue those comments in some way. But overall, this is a great deal for Clemson. It's obviously a great deal for Dabo Sweeney, and it's a great deal for this football program as well.
Well, let's go ahead and get into the play calling from Brandon Streeter. That was a poll that we put out there on Twitter. What do you want to hear about in this episode? And play calling on offense sort of carried the day there. I think we saw more DJ Uiagalelei running the ball for sure than last year. He's got 9 career touchdowns, so there's not too much new there, but 13 attempts Monday night was well above his average last year of 8 per game.
A lot of DJ run in that play calling and in the game plan, and that's okay if it's working. It did work a little bit. He did have the 9-yard touchdown run, but there were also several plays where they got nothing out of it. And just my own personal preference, Bill, I would love to see those carries go to Will Shipley or go to Kobe Pace. I understand why the coaching staff is doing this, And who am I to question these coaches with what they're trying to get done? But when you've got 3 running backs like that, I'd love to see them get more carries than DJ. Swing passes, the 2-back set, which I think you and I are both a big fan of. We saw a lot of that last year, especially down the stretch last year. But I would love to see those 3 backs get more carries.
23 carries combined for Shipley, Moffa, and Pace, led by Shipley with 10, total of 42 yards out of Shipley, also led the way. Maybe they're saving Shipley a little bit, trying to keep him healthy, trying to keep his legs fresh until they get into the Wake Forest game or the NC State game. He averaged 15 carries a game last year against that 10 on Monday night.
I was surprised that he didn't touch the ball more often. And look, he'd had the 2 touchdown runs, so that looks great on the stat sheet. They were short runs. They did have the short fields a couple of times that Dabo mentioned after the block punt. I thought the passing game was better in the second half. I know everybody wants to talk about DJ and Cade Klubnik, and it's time for Cade to start. I don't see that. I must be watching a different game than everybody else. I thought DJ threw the ball pretty well, especially in the second half. But my focus is on the running game. That running game has to be better than it was Monday night. So hopefully that gets started on Saturday.
It seemed to me from afar as a casual observer, there was a lot of RPO when the running backs were getting their carries. And I would expect that against Furman, against Louisiana Tech, you're going to see Clemson try to figure out how effective they can be with the RPO, with Uiagalelei reading it, with the running backs doing well off of it, with the line getting where they're supposed to be. But I also have a sneaky suspicion that you got to keep in mind what Tony Elliott did a couple of years ago during Trevor Lawrence's sophomore season and be willing to go to more designed running back carries if that's going to be what the team can execute better.
Probably. Again, how does the line play? And I thought the line was okay. I really thought the line pass blocked pretty well the other night. I know there were the sacks. There's pressure. There's always going to be pressure. Dabo and Brandon Streeter both mentioned, Blake Miller had a couple of instances where he looked like a freshman. Well, he's a freshman, and he's starting his first game in college, and Blake even said that. I liked what I saw from the line pass blocking. I just think we need to see more in the run game. So, again, his first game, you've got a true freshman starting at right tackle. You've got 4 starters back, but 2 of them are in new positions. So there's going to be some things that need to get worked out. But I would love to see the running backs be the focal point of the game plan the next 2 weeks. And Bill, again, I would run that 2-back set. I love that 2-back set. I thought those misdirection that they ran last year when they had Shipley and Pace in the backfield and they would get the defense moving one way and then boom, the ball's going back the other way with one of those guys. I thought that was just beautiful stuff. And I would love to see more of that moving forward.
Dabo Sweeney talked during the promotion of Brandon Streeter, this is going to be the Clemson offense. This wasn't Tony Elliott's offense. It wasn't Chad Morris's offense, so on and so forth, going back through Sweeney's tenure. I feel like Sweeney has, let's say it this way, insisted on balance. And you saw that Monday night, 38 passing attempts team-wide, 40 rushing attempts team-wide. That's balance right there. And he's going to make these guys work on what they need to work on. Don't forget those receivers need some work too. Those new option routes that they want to incorporate into the passing game definitely need some work. Furman and Louisiana Tech offer the opportunity to work on those things. Hopefully, if they are executed properly, the games won't be in question as long as the Georgia Tech game was in question the other night. I do expect to see more balance moving ahead, but I do hope that the rushing game will improve just based on the level of competition. They can get their sea legs under them and then hopefully carry some success into that Wake game, into that NC State game.
I'm with you there. We're outside observers. We're sports journalists, whatever we are as we're listening to the podcast here or watching the games on Saturday. We're not in that room, so we can say these kinds of things. Dabo might smack me on the back of the head if he heard us talking about these things. The coaches are going to focus on the Furman game, winning that game, and being better coming out of that game than the team is going in. People watching the team from the outside can say the team needs to be ready to play Wake and whatever it takes to get to that point. That's your first big challenge, really. Not overlooking Furman or Louisiana Tech, but we're allowed to do that as outside onlookers, right? So I would love to see that. I think you got to get all those pieces working, right? You don't want to ignore the passing game. I'm not saying that the next 2 weeks, because obviously the passing game needs work too. We saw that on Monday. DJ needs to be sharper. than he was in that game Monday night, especially in the first half. But the receivers need to make plays, and he gave them chances to make plays several times. And Bill, I think that's the difference right now in the receiving core is, and we know the names, Mike Williams, T. Higgins, those other guys, when they were given chance to make plays, they made them a lot of the times. The other night, DJ gave those guys chances to make plays with really well thrown balls. And for the most part, they did not make the play. So that's got to improve for sure these next 2 weeks. But I'm more concerned about getting the running game in gear right now than anything else.
I do wonder if we will see more of that two-back set. I like it as well. I thought it was a good innovation last year. I thought it was the right solution given the challenges the team was facing last year, and it was effective. It worked out all right. I had read some things this offseason not to expect as much two-back, so I was kind of pleasantly surprised to see some two-back during the Georgia Tech game, that it's not totally gone from the playbook, and hopefully we'll see that moving forward. To me, what it signifies is they're willing to do what it takes to make sure that they can move the ball effectively. I don't think they really wanted to dust off a misdirection shovel pass to have to get the offense going against Georgia Tech, but that's what they did, and it worked. It moved the chains. It helped keep a drive alive and sort of put a little spark in the offense, maybe as much as that little lateral to Shipley on the third down where the pocket was breaking down, and it was just sort of a desperate improvisation on Uiagalelei's part, and boy, Shipley just took it and rumbled and was not going to be denied. But I think there was a little spark already just because of some of the things they had done to try to loosen up that defensive front seven of Georgia Tech. And let's also be realistic, them losing one of their best defensive ends didn't exactly hurt the Tigers' cause either.
No, it didn't, but that's part of the game, right? Those things are going to happen. You're going to have guys get banged up. Luckily, it sounds like Clemson, for the most part, came out of that game pretty healthy. I mean, that boy, knock on wood, that's music to our ears, isn't it, after last year with all the injuries? So, hopefully that continues to be the storyline for this season. But yeah, I'm with you. They had something there that worked there for a little bit. They got some momentum. Look, I don't know that I watched the same game that a lot of people watched, Bill. I know that DJ wasn't great. I know that he can improve, but I didn't see a guy that was terrible the other night. I thought that he was better Monday night than he was at any point last year. I really thought that, especially in the second half. When it's 14-10, I thought he looked pretty good. And, a lot of the talk around is, it's time for Cade to start. And I don't see that. And I'm not questioning somebody else's opinion or anything like that, but that's not what I saw Monday night in the stadium. So there's a lot that needs to get cleaned up for sure. But I think we also forget they just won a conference game on the road by 31 points. We might be nitpicking some of this other stuff, and that's okay when you're at this level. But the freak out, I think, a little bit is a little bit too much. So we'll see what happens on Saturday. I'm really interested in seeing a lot of guys play, seeing probably a lot of Cade Klubnik, a lot of Will Taylor, a lot of that second group, third group on offense, and a lot of guys playing on defense as well. So that's going to be a fun part of what we see on Saturday afternoon.
Looking forward to it for sure. There's not a lot we can add about Furman. You can go back and re-listen to our earlier episode previewing this opponent. Their season opener was a 52-0 shutout against North Greenville, which is a Division II opponent. So Furman, if they're in good shape, is looking at North Greenville the same way, let's face it, a lot of Clemson fans are looking at this Furman game. Chance to work on some things, chance to try to shine and try to make sure that you build on your strengths and address your weaknesses. By the way, the game's going to be on ACC Network. It's set for a 3:30 kickoff. Familiar voice will be Wes Durham on the call. Furman hasn't beaten Clemson since 1936, though. Hasn't beaten any FBS team since 2015 when they beat UCF. Current head coach Clay Hendricks, however, was playing O-line for the Paladins in 1983 through 86 when they went 3-0-1 against ACC teams. He's now 32-23 in his sixth season as a head coach.
And he's doing a good job. It's almost like Furman's the brother team, right? Where you cheer for Furman because they are in the upstate. They're so close. This is the only week you don't cheer for Furman, I think, if you're a Clemson fan. They almost have the same colors too, right? White and purple, and Clemson's orange and purple. So it'll be fun. It's always fun when Clemson plays Furman or Wofford or South Carolina State, one of these in-state FCS teams. And we'll see how the Tigers respond. I would think you're going to see a pretty focused team and be ready to play this game and continue to get better each week. And because I thought, look, again, the first game wasn't great, but it's the first game. You need to build off of that So I think you're going to see this team continue to get better as it goes through the season.
Couple of names we probably will hear a good bit of. Running back Dominic Roberto. He's a second-team All-Southern Conference selection. He had 2 touchdowns last week among 53 yards total. And then quarterback Tyler Huff. He's a transfer. He made his first start for Furman last week, coming in for Presbyterian where he had started 12 games. Huff's a dual threat guy, 10 of 12 for 189 yards and 2 touchdowns, plus tacking on 94 yards rushing. So it could be an interesting game for Clemson's defense to sort of look at a more of a dual threat quarterback. Sims kind of brought some of those elements. I'm not sure the Georgia Tech play calling really allowed him to show that off as much as you would expect. I would think that Furman is going to try to rush him as well as Roberto, try to keep the defense on its heels a little bit, try to come up with some misdirection or some element of surprise between the two of them, much like we used to see, right, with Deshaun Watson and Wayne Gallman.
This will give them a chance to see some of this, be prepared for it if they see it later from somebody else, and that'll be a key part of it. But I'm telling you, Bill, I thought the defense, for the most part the other night, other than some tackling, I don't think they tackled as well as you'll see them tackle throughout the season. I thought the defense looked really good. I know we talked about KJ Henry the other day, Barrett Carter, Trent Simpson. I mean, those guys were flying all over the field, and it was a lot of fun to watch. It was fun for me to watch a linebacking group that can run like this group can, and that gets me really excited about this group going through the rest of the season.
Agreed. A chance to work on things, a chance to maybe work on playing well out of the base defensive scheme and work on perfecting some technique, hopefully, rather than having to rely on blitzes. You may see a little bit of blitz work here and there just to get guys familiar and comfortable with the calls. But what I would like to see is this team working in base quite a bit, because they really were a better team in the base defense last year, I think. A lot of times when they gave up big plays, it was coming in, blitzing, and failing to fill in behind that blitz. Other teams kind of knew where to go with the ball when there was an open spot on the field. I don't know if it was out of preparation of having seen things a lot. I don't know if it was just, teams being smart. Obviously, Devin Leary, a very good quarterback in that regard. Sam Hartman, a very good quarterback in that regard. Others as well. So it'd be nice to see them stay in base the vast majority of the game and then rotate guys through. This defense is 2 deep at all 11 starting spots, 3 deep in some of them. If Brian Brzee needs a little breather, if Tyler Davis, who, by the way, only had the 3rd most snaps among defensive tackles, if he needs a little breather, this should be the week to do that. Get Peyton Page in there. Get Trey Williams in there with a few snaps again. It was good to see him on the field and playing effectively. Get Demonte Capehart some much-needed developmental time. He's been around a while, had a good offseason, so it would be nice to see him get out on the field and get some experience as well. I think that's what you're looking for defensively. A few people in our poll of what to discuss in this episode had mentioned play calling by Wes Goodwin as a defensive coordinator in his first game out. I think it was kind of hard to tell if he wanted guys being aggressive or if guys were being a little too over aggressive and getting after the ball rather than staying home. So that'll be something interesting to watch. It's one of those things it's hard to tell from afar which is being asked, which is just being executed regardless of the ask. So I would like to see how this defense is going to handle these next 2 games if they can try to stick with the fundamentals, like you said, work on the tackling, work on being in position. Don't leave gaps in the field to be exploited on a few of the good drives that Georgia Tech had.
Agreed. There's no way you can look at a film unless you really, really study the film and know what they were trying to accomplish on defense. Unless you sit down with Wes and he said, okay, here's what we're doing here. Here's what we're doing here. This guy's in the wrong place. This guy didn't get the call right. All those things that happen in a college football game. I'll tell you, Bill, who I want to watch play on Saturday are the 2 freshman cornerbacks. They got in at the end of the game on Monday. I want to see a lot of snaps from them coming up Saturday because I think they're going to need them. The first 3 cornerbacks, I think they're in pretty good shape. Dabo kind of called them co-starters, the 3 of them today. But I feel like those 2 young guys are so talented that it's fun to watch those kinds of players get snaps in this kind of game. And that'll be exciting to see on Saturday.
Go ahead and check out our homepage, clemsonkickoff.com. Lots going on there, and you can listen to all our episodes there as well. It's a good place to track down some of our past topics, including the Furman off-season preview. Let's close out with a couple of non-revenue sports, I guess we would say, and one of them really, really looking successful, coming off of a national championship and now a unanimous number 1 for this season at 4-0, and that's men's soccer.
Really strong start to the season for soccer. Can't wait to see what this team can do. I mean, this is a great run right now that this program is on. We know how historic this program is and what it's done, and this coaching staff and these players are doing a great job.
And they're not just riding like one player. The offense has been pretty balanced, much like the football team. The football team is doing the same. Usman Silla leading with 3 goals and 4 assists. Mohamed Say, 2 goals and 4 assists. Isaiah Reed also with a couple of goals, but also balance in net. New keepers, Trevor Mannion and Joseph Andema, 2 games apiece, 2 wins apiece. So it's interesting to see just how broad-based the talent is on this team. No wonder they're so far doing really, really well.
It's a deep and talented team, Bill. And, Coach Noonan is obviously one of the best coaches in the country. He's got a great staff. It's a fun team to watch, too. Exciting, action-packed. They're not just sitting back and not attacking. They're going after these other teams, and that makes this a really, really fun group to watch.
Another Clemson squad having success early is volleyball. They're off to a 5-2 start, and they got a win over South Carolina as well, 5-set victory Tuesday.
That was exciting. I watched a lot of that match. It was back and forth, and Clemson kind of took control in the 5th set and got it done. First win over South Carolina in a while for that program. Hopefully they can continue to win matches like they did against South Carolina and continue to build through this season.
Cameron Hanna leads the team, 103 kills so far. Devin Taylor doing hard work with 135 digs, spreading around the sets as well. McKenna Slavic and Jenna Moore with 165, 112 respectively. So again, you're looking at balance on this team. And they'll be on the road this weekend at East Tennessee State's Buccaneer Classic. So check in on the university's athletic website, clemsontigers.com. Go ahead and get updates as those games finish on Friday and Saturday. Well, football, Furman is the focus, and really it probably is more like Dabo Sweeney says, Clemson is the focus.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. The coaching staff and the players are not going to say, we're building for the future this week, we're trying to win this game. But you know that if things are going the way they're supposed to go, there's going to be a lot of young guys playing. There's going to be a lot of new faces out there. And that'll be the focal point of this game for me, is to see how some of those guys play in this game.
And if any news breaks in the next few days, we'll be sure to react to that as well. Well, I hope everyone's enjoyed this. We are glad you found us, Clemson family. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You can stay up to speed every time we react to big news around campus. We want to keep this a free podcast. That's an easy way to do it. Our homepage has some great resources, clemsonkickoff.com. You can play all our episodes there. Our podcast links are there as well. Find the favorite service you like and give us a follow. You can also hit us up on Twitter at Clemson Kickoff. We retweet news as it happens. We may put some polls out there to make sure that we're talking about the things you want to hear about. We'll also just give some quick hit opinions in real time as things develop. Well, until the next episode after that Furman game, I'm Bill Zimmerman.
I'm Daniel Shirley. Go Tigers.